Coming up, who's the new top dog in the hotel union? After a court order, hotel workers head to the polls. The latest from the election coming up.
The Prime Minister speaks out on the take-back of BTC.
And a celebration for champion fit for an MVP. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
There is breaking news tonight. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Kendino Knowles.
The country has lost another distinguished Bahamian. Late today, former diplomat, central bank governor, and financial analyst T. Baswell Donaldson passed away. Mr. Donaldson wore many hats in his long and distinguished career.
He was appointed chairman of the College Council in 2007 and has also served as Bahamas ambassador to the United States and has also held other diplomatic postings, including non-resident ambassador to Colombia and Mexico. He also served as permanent representative to the Organization of American States. In the private sector, Mr. Donaldson served as chairman of Commonwealth Bank and chairman of the Securities Commission, among other posts. Dr. Donaldson was honored by Her Majesty the Queen for distinguished public service in 1973 and made a Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire in 1998. T. Baswell Donaldson is the father of 3 children, Dwight, Kevin, and Tatiana, and he's married to the former Yolande Yasmin Parchment.
Now, Prime Minister Perry Christie has offered his condolences. A statement released by Bahamas Information Services relays his regret. The Prime Minister says he's been informed of the passing of yet another outstanding Bahamian, Timothy Baswell Donaldson, who served his country with great distinction and ability over a lengthy period of time. He called him a pacesetter in the private sector, especially in the fields of education and banking. Mr. Christie has extended condolences to Mr. Donaldson's widow and his children, along with the entire family.
In other news, it's a 3-way race the court decided should be held sooner than later. Today, hotel union members cast ballots which will either mean a second term for incumbent Nicole Martin or a fresh face to the presidency of a union facing industry transition and the burden of pacifying jobless members.
Now, the polls closed at 6 o'clock this evening, and by all accounts, members turned out in big numbers to make their decision known. Our Jimenita Swain visited the polling places today to gauge sentiment.
Asking our members not to change the administration because the work that has started has to be completed. In my opinion, is my contribution to the Bahamas because it is a Bahamian problem. But for our members in particular, we have a contract, a master contract that has to be negotiated. The process of negotiation must begin, and of course our Constitution. Our Constitution is really what has caused us all of the issues that we're faced with.
Martin spoke to us at the Performing Arts Center, which proved to be the most active of polling sites today. For most of the morning at that location, there were long lines and anxious voters. Voters trickled in at Workers' House and the Bahamas Union of Teachers Hall. Team Destiny leader Dave Beckford was confident of a win. He was unavailable for comment, but Samuel Adderley and Don Fernanda spoke to the team's plans following a win.
We just hope to be victorious.
What are some of the plans you plan to put forward should you be elected?
Well, some of the plans that we plan to put forward is one, health insurance plan, which is desperately needed for the members, and a hardship fund plan as well.
And to continue with our transparency, just all through, straight through, letting the members know exactly what the union has and what the union can do for the people, because, for far too long, we've been, just in the dark about everything.
Team Revolution, Team Revolution.
Members from Team Revolution were equally confident of a win.
Because we have upcoming members and leadership, so I think that we're going to do good.
Address is to bring the membership back to the members and bring all of the members back together as one. And now that we think that would be a good idea for the membership.
Most of the teams vying say they were pleased with voting operations, but whoever wins, they all agree that there is much work ahead. Jimenita Swain, ZNS Network News.
Well, the government has been working hard to keep its election promise to return the majority stake in the Bahamas Telecommunications Company to the people. In fact, the government's negotiating team recently resumed negotiations with Cable and Wireless to make that happen. However, the nation's leader, Prime Minister Perry Christie, says that may not happen right now due to the state of the nation's finances.
That we cannot afford to do that, and that is why we are going to be able to project that come 2015, 2016, you're going to be seeing definitive progress being made towards balancing the books, towards our being able to curtail our expenditure and match it more to our revenue. And that is the thrust of the communication yesterday.
Now, the Prime Minister said he could not give a clear deadline on when government would move forward with the purchase.
We're going to the budget in May. And so I've given the Ministry of Finance a target for May when we go to budget, right, between now and then, to do a real rigorous examination of the economy, sources of revenue that are untapped or that we're not collecting, to measure what is happening with real property tax and to see how we can be more effective in collecting the taxes.
A new trial date has been set for convicted sex offender Andre Babal's through the Supreme Court, which has denied him bail. A new trial is set for October 7th. Today in court, Justice John Isaacs cautioned the media not to sensationalize reports or use language which may inflame the minds of readers or prejudice the jury pool as it relates to the Andre Babal case, as it should, or could, that is, result in a mistrial. This after Babal complained in court about the adverse publicity surrounding his case. The conviction of the 50-year-old Trinidadian father of three was quashed along with his 35-year prison term last December and a new trial ordered. In his attempt to secure bail, Babal argued that he's being held illegally as a sentenced inmate in inhumane conditions. He also argued that he's not a flight risk. But the court countered that his detention is authorized by the Court of Appeal and his trial will be held in a matter of months.
In other news tonight, after two major collection exercises, officials from the Straw Market Authority say outstanding arrears owed by dozens of straw vendors are still in excess of $200,000.
But according to Chairman of the Straw Market Authority, Ron Pinder, authorities are looking at ways to cut costs for vendors failing to meet their commitments. LaDon Davis joins us live in studio with the details. LaDon, what can you tell us?
Yes, Kendino, officials on the Straw Market Authority are calling the $220,000 in arrears owed by scores of straw vendors far too high and are now asking that vendors pay up or fees will go even higher.
We have come a long way to turning back the tide of a mindset or a culture of entitlement where vendors are not prioritizing or not viewing with priority the need to pay their fees regularly and consistently.
Chairman of the Straw Market Authority, Ron Pinder, advised straw vendors who still have outstanding arrears with the corporation to pay up, as there are some $200,000 still outstanding. Mr. Pinder says just last month authorities conducted its second lockdown and collection operation and gave us this breakdown on outstanding monies owed.
In November, the arrears was some $320,000. We were able to successfully reduce the arrears to just around just around $221,000. That would mean that we collected some $99,000 over the course of 10 days. In addition to that, since November to January of this year, we began to see once again a steady increase in the outstanding arrears that are owed to us by the vendors.
But failure to meet financial obligations are not the only issues. Pinder says he still believes there is a small fraction of vendors still selling knockoff items. However, he made this appeal to other vendors to report those caught breaking the law.
We do have vendors who continue to operate a black market approach to business, if you will. And but we continue to monitor the activities and we continue to liaise with vendors on a regular basis, in particular the vendor leaders or the representatives. And so we believe that we have a good working relationship with all of the vendors at all of the locations presently.
Now, as far as behavioral and environmental issues affecting the close to 700 straw vendors goes, Pinder gave this response.
Our efforts with regards to enforcement of the rules and regulations are yielding good results, and the overwhelming majority of the vendors come to work. They're serious-minded business persons, and they are serious about the straw and craft industry, and they are serious about advancing the tourism product of the Bahamas. And so we are pleased with the response of the overwhelming majority of vendors.
Now, Pinder says his team will move away from lockouts involving 50 to 100 vendors and plans to conduct exercises on an individual basis. Meantime, 123 vendors are currently on the payment plan. Keishla Candino.
Thanks, Adon. Well, the government is continuing its bid to find new ways to revive the Grand Bahama economy. One such development proposed for East Grand Bahama is a new mega resort comparable to Bahamar.
Former Cabinet Minister Ken Russell met recently with Prime Minister Perry Christie to discuss the proposed development, which would use Crown land as a well-known U.S. hospitality brand, along with Chinese investors. Prime Minister Christie commented outside of Cabinet on the viability of the project. He says before government makes a final decision, the financial viability will have to be satisfied.
We're going through the process. We're meeting persons and entities, corporations that are being held out as being involved in the project. They are significant corporate personalities, hotels, energy companies, but for the purposes of my being able to certify that there is a viable project, that test still has to be met, and that is the basis of it is having the funding in place to the satisfaction of the government.
The investigation into what caused that fire on the Carnival Triumph should be completed soon by Bahamian authorities. The cruise ship, which is registered in the Bahamas, was pulled into dock in Mobile, Alabama last Thursday, ending a cruise that turned into a week-long nightmare for more than 4,000 passengers and crew. Commodore Davy Roll, Director and CEO of the Bahamas Maritime Authority, talked about the preliminary findings yesterday.
Investigation is still in its early stages and is being conducted in accordance with the international casualty guidelines with the aim of ascertaining the cause and circumstances and that is relating to the incident on board, and of course its emergency management, and identify measures to prevent reoccurrence of similar incidents. A report will be submitted to the International Maritime Organization on conclusion of the investigation.
Now, the Bahamas Maritime Authority is working with the U.S. Coast Guard and the United States National Transport Safety Board to conduct a more thorough investigation. Mr. Roll explained what initial findings revealed and how the preliminary investigations were carried out.
There was a fire, and it originated in the vessel's machinery space, and although extinguished by the onboard fire system, the vessel suffered a loss of power and as a consequence completed its voyage in Mobile, Alabama under tow. There were no reported injuries to the persons on board, nor were there any report of pollution from the vessel. We have persons whom we assign to conduct and carry out the investigation. And as I stated, along with the U.S. Coast Guard and the NTSB, we are collaborating with the investigation. Depending on the nature of the incident, of course, experts from engineering or other disciplines are assigned, and we're looking forward to a very comprehensive and detailed report.
Prime Minister Christie has also revealed his government's plan to further strengthen real property tax administration as part of his fiscal management plan to grow the economy. While he promised to disclose more details of the comprehensive plan in the next budget communication, he says it will include new legislation, software, and operating procedures. In the interim, Prime Minister Christie says real property tax payers will be given an amnesty period effective March 1st this year, in which incentives and waivers will be granted. The program is expected to comprise 4 components.
Owners of residential properties above the $250,000 exemption threshold and owners of commercial properties who have never received a property tax bill will be encouraged to register their properties with the Chief Valuation Officer by June 30th, 2013. For these registrants, the government will waive all back taxes where no more than 3 years of payment arrears exist. 50% of the total owed in both assessment and surcharges, provided payment is made by June 30th, 2013. Where accumulated arrears for more than 3 years exist, 100% of surcharges only will be waived provided payment is made by December 31st, 2013.
Minister of State for Investments Kaylis Roll, in support, stated that the government is taking an holistic approach and a strong economic position on managing the country's resources.
It has to function like a business. And during the height of the recession, several businesses that I was involved in looked at ways to reduce expenditure. We can't continue to go along business as usual. Unfortunately, the state of affairs and the global economy does not allow us to do that. The second point to be made on economic development, I had a meeting with the IDB and a team of professionals this morning to talk about economic development and how we begin to indoctrinate or introduce that into our overall long-term management philosophy.
Minister of Financial Services Ryan Pinder added that the government's approach to creating surplus will enable entrepreneurs of the future.
I think it's important to understand that the government of the Bahamas is taking a comprehensive approach to the state of affairs in the country. Certainly we heard, and you've questioned in detail, on items such as efficiencies and cost savings, as well as being a little bit more refined in our revenue collection matters. But we also have to understand that in the context of going forward, the government of the Bahamas has a comprehensive plan on economic development as well. We do not feel that we want to sit in place with what we have today from an economic opportunity point of view. I think an example of that is certainly the successful symposium that was hosted last week on investment and trade in Freeport. We look forward to continue those initiatives. For instance, we're hosting the Design Caribbean Symposium in June of this year through partnership between the Ministry of Financial Services, the Ministry of Grand Bahama, and the Bahamas Agricultural Industrial Corporation, which we look to launch a whole new industry of entrepreneurial opportunity for Bahamians.
Meantime, Minister for Grand Bahama Dr. Michael Darville says the Prime Minister's announcement on the Reef Hotel to be upgraded by Blue Diamond Resorts couldn't come at a better time.
And this particular deal definitely had its challenges, but we worked swiftly through the deal, and finally the announcement is made, and the residents of Grand Bahama has been waiting patiently for this proposed 1,000 jobs and to start the necessary construction at the Reef Hotel. And that is very important for us in Grand Bahama because, you know, with an unemployment rate at about 18%, this is what Grand Bahama really needs: relief, jobs, jobs, jobs.